Just blue for your possible breakfast error in the right thing. So solid.
Can you guys all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had Japan as our country. Our existing background analysis was Japan is a country with unique values, norms, and overall history that are not common in other areas of the world. This sets Japan apart as a travel destination. Tourism is seen as a huge economy driver in this country for many reasons. One popular event that recently boosted tourism was the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. While there would have usually been more people, COVID-19 restricted spectators. However, the event is still boosted overall tourism revenue in Japan. The market was valued at a United States $1.6 million in 2020, even with the pandemic. The majority of the tourists prefer leisure trips or other recreational activities. Japan is an important global hub for commerce, technology, cuisine, popular culture, sightseeing, and shopping. And then we had an infographic called the tourism boom that just kind of showed like an increase in the number of tourists per year. And continuing on that, our target market was Generation Z, so around 18 to 24 years old. No, I did that. Generation Z generally tends to seek out more immersive tourist experiences. Japan's uniqueness helps fill all of those sought after experiences. This generation is also more likely to be active on social media, marketing to other people in their generation. While it's important for a success of a destination to have something that interests people of all ages, it is also key to focus on the largest incoming consumer generation yet, Generation Z. Some of the most popular things that we found to see and do when visiting Japan are going to Tokyo, and pardon me if I can't pronounce these correctly, but the Meiji Castle, the Monument of Kyoto, Mount Fuji, the Nishiki Market, the Toyama Bay, and visiting an onsen, which is a traditional Japanese inn with a public bath and hot spring, and that is in the picture below. And then the picture at the bottom to the left is a view of Tokyo with Mount Fuji in the background. So continuing on to the next one, the next presenter.
Okay, so for competitive analysis, with Japan being one of the most popular travel destinations in the world, the country is packed with cultural experiences to suit our target market. Generation Z most wants a unique experience, such as trying new foods, experiencing new cultures, and exploring the outdoors. Japan has a rich cultural history, which has been captured in their temples, shrines, castles, and art galleries. Gen Z can explore some of the more popular spots in Japan, including the Kinkaku-ji Golden Temple in Kyoto, the Itsukushima Shrine in Hiroshima, and Shibuya Crossing in Tokyo. Some of the important things for marketers to know about Gen Z is that they have been uniquely impacted by the pandemic, affecting economic and young life opportunities they would otherwise be experiencing. Gen Z is in a ready-to-travel mindset. However, they do not plan to skimp on safety and are wanting to follow pandemic protocols to avoid spreading the virus to older relatives. And lastly, Gen Z has a distinctive wariness of social media content. They consume media differently compared to other generations. And this picture is of the Kinkaku-ji Golden Temple. And the second part of competitive analysis is the sustainable tourism development and the Japanese environmental impact. Leisure and tourism are responsible for 17% of Japan's greenhouse gas emissions, and 13% of Japan's primary energy use. A considerable part of the national land use is affected by leisure and tourism. The impact on biodiversity is hard to quantify because of inadequate monitoring systems, reference definition problems, and interacting causes of environmental pressure. Lastly, Japan is one of the world's most geologically unstable areas, with frequent tremors or minor earthquakes, occasional major earthquakes, and occasional violent volcanic eruptions.
When we get into the synthesis part, we're basically dealing with business, and with business, you have to measure it by using what we call a SWOT analysis. And could you scroll up the slide, one slide, please? Oh, you scrolled it down. Could you scroll it up?
Sorry, I don't know why it is doing that, but it's like not letting me scroll background. Which one do you want it on? This one?
Or this one right here.
Okay.
This is perfect. Yes. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulty. So getting back into the business aspect of our destination of Japan, because of COVID, we're measuring our destination with a SWOT analysis. Now, if you're not familiar with what a SWOT analysis is, a SWOT analysis is a measure that you use to see where your organization is. So when I break down the synthesis statement, I'm using SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, or SWOT, SWOT, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, the strength that I have seen with the greater Tokyo area, it happens to be both the largest concentration of humanity on the planet, with around 42 million residents, and its biggest metropolitan economy with the GDP of approximately 2 trillion American dollars. Now, it is then perhaps unsurprising that when business people think of Japan, they think largely in terms of its sprawling megalopolis of a capital, and then perhaps Osaka. Now, when I break down the weaknesses, Japan had experienced a period of deflation and low economic growth since its economic bubble burst in the early 1990s. Now, the second Shinzo Abe administration, which took office back in 2012, basically used 3 pillars of Abenomics to try to revive the economy. Now, these 3 pillars include an aggressive monetary policy, a flexible fiscal policy, and a strategy for growth. Now, despite all these efforts, Japan still faces economic challenges. So structural change towards environmentally benign service industries is widely considered a low-key strategy for sustainable development. And this is where we get sustainability or sustainable tourism. Next slide, please. Now, got to scroll back up one again.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why it keeps doing that, but it like randomly goes past all the slides. Okay, there we go.
Okay, here we go. Back on the synthesis. Now, I've already done the strengths, weakness. Now it's time for the opportunities, because with every business, there are opportunities, and tourism is a big business. Now, something that happened in Japan, the Olympics, they came to Tokyo. Unfortunately, the Olympics were canceled until this year of 2021. So, with that being stated, with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, again, with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic at the beginning of 2020, inbound and outbound international travel nearly disappeared, while domestic tourism declined significantly, as exemplified by the figures relating to the number of domestic travelers in Japan. Now, after the first COVID-19 wave was brought under control, the government devised a nationwide scheme to help revise or reinvigorate and the hard hit. I'm just going to say they revised the hard hit sectors of the Japanese service industry. Now, dubbed the Go To Travel campaign and the Go To Eat campaign, the government attempted to boost domestic travel and the restaurant industry by basically providing citizens with a subsidy when traveling or dining out at participating entities. Now, again, the threats, because the restaurant at the Exmelsa shopping center in Tokyo's upscale Ginza district, what you see are tourists packed in that area. Now, a lot of your tourists are Chinese tourists, but on a recent weekday, many lunchtime tables were empty. And when that is occurring, a sign of the toll that the coronavirus has basically taken on the tourism industry, and it's taken it down. So just months ahead of the 2020 Olympics, the jolt to tourism may presage a broader economic impact from the coronavirus for both Japan and the global economy.
Okay, so for Japan's position statement, can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay, just making sure. Okay, so Japan didn't have an official position statement, so we created one that we best thought fit our country, and that was Japan is a country that was something for everyone, no matter where you are from. While every country has its downfalls, Japan strives to balance all categories of life and tourism well. It is imperative that the tourism industry continues to succeed here so that the country can continue to be a beautiful and economically powerful destination. And for the vision statement, there also wasn't a clear one for that. So we created one that said, we aim to continue to be one of the most popular travel destinations in the world with continued success and development of transportation, tourist attractions, and infrastructure. We think this is highly attainable. Next slide. Oh, too far, a little too far. Yeah, there we go. So one promotional strategy for Japan is to create a Japan-specific marketing plan and calendar. There are many Japanese holidays and events throughout the year that are different from other countries. For example, the winter sale in Japan occurs in the beginning of January instead around Boxing Day in the West. Another promotional strategy is to understand the Japanese market. So the culture, the consumer behavior, and the language are all directly Japanese. Therefore, some research on the market is very highly recommended before promoting Japan in this way. Another strategy would be social media and using that to your advantage, and to share what Japan has to offer to tourists that makes it stand out from other countries. You can go next slide. Yeah. So our promotional slogan is "Living for the Future." Japan is known worldwide for its traditional arts, including tea ceremonies, calligraphy, and flower arranging. They have the country has a legacy of distinctive gardens, sculpture, and poetry. One thing that stands out about Japan is its diverse history. We could promote Japan by talking about its diverse history and how it became the tourist attraction that it did today, along with attractions that have been there for many years, including the Sanai Maruyama, which has been there for over 5,000 years. So a negative impact of tourism development in Japan, as Ava said, is that leisure and tourism are responsible for 17% of the national greenhouse gas emissions and 13% of the national primary energy use. Another one is the over-tourism in Japan. So Japan is overpopulated with tourists that don't treat Japan the way that it needs to be treated. Japan does not need more tourists, they need more mindful tourists that are respectful of the place. Since 2015, it has been made more clear that tourists have no idea or respect for the local customs. Majority of the behavior stemmed from people being disrespectful in order to gain validation on social media, which contributed to the serious issue of tourism pollution, which is a term that has gradually been created over time by tourists. This behavior includes tourists sketching their names into the bamboo in Japan and walking into restaurants just to take pictures to post on social media, then leaving without ordering anything, leaving the restaurant owners with nothing. So some initiatives to go along with this is to prevent tourism pollution. It can be to review and improve regulations, such as closing some overcrowded areas to traffic on the streets. Along with that statement, doing so will have less cars on the road, which leads to less pollution in the air. Japan needs to attract more responsible types of travelers, ensure the benefits of tourism to local communities by increasing the number of inhabitants employed in tourism, and by involving residents in the creation of tourism experiences. There should also be a number limit on hotels and how many visitors can stay there, and they can only stay there for a certain amount of time, since so many people are trying to get in Japan at the same time. Another initiative to go along with pollution could be for Japan to purchase pollution controlling technology, along with incentivizing businesses to adopt environmentally friendly technology and policies. That's all I have for negative impacts and initiatives.
Okay, so that was our entire presentation. We will be submitting our final paper online, but that is all we got.